Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with a post-match reaction to what was a pretty dismal, rubbish game. Really, Newcastle United 0, Wolves 0. Wolves, bottom of the league. Wolves have only got 7 points this season. Wolves, yes, they've picked up recently, but they don't really look like they can score a goal. And do you know what? Neither do we right now, especially away from home. Absolutely rubbish. I'm going to get stuck right into that today. Talk about the team selection, talk about where it went wrong, talk about chances spurned and everything else. If that's the kind of thing you guys like, smack subscribe on the bottom. That help get us to the next milestone, which will be 13,000. I think we're about 12,400 and something. So we're well on the way to the 13,000 mark at the start of the year, which is awesome. And thank you for all of your support as well. All free content. If you want to be a member, there is an option down there below as well. More benefits for members this year. We've got a little Discord group going, which is good. You can get away from the toxicity of social media and speak your mind about somebody attacking you, or like somebody did to me the other day, pull up a tweet that I did 5 years ago. I kid you not, about Joe Linton when I said Anthony Elanga was a crap. But let's get stuck into this game and the lineup. This is how we lined up today. Few changes from Eddie Howe. You can see Lewis Miley was rested, so Trippier came back in at right back. Then we had Lewis Hall left back, Botman and Chow in the middle, which is standard. We had the so-called power three. I'll get into them in a minute, which is Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, and Sandro Tonali. And up front, Wissa came out for Votamata, which we all thought, and it was Barnes and Gordon either side in the front three. So you looked at that and you thought, we got a good chance of winning here against Wolves. I mean, Wolves have picked up a lot. Young Mane looks a really good player. Who's the other boy? O scores against us. Hwang scores against us, but he didn't manage to this time, which was good. But you fancied us to go to this game off the back of the disappointment at City and just put in a performance and, maybe put a little bit of a marker down and just get a good result away from home, because we've been shocking away from home. We'll get into, what the stats are, but I think that's 2 wins out of 11, I think, away from home, which is absolutely honking by Newcastle United and Eddie Howe. And there's no amount of cuddling Eddie Howe is going to get you out of that stat. Shocking. But we started the game. It was kind of a bit end to end. I think Wolves played really well right from the jump. Really, they were trying to get things going. They were, they looked energetic. They were closing us down. They were trying to make things happen themselves. But we had the best of the chances. I mean, the cross comes in to Nick Votamata, and he's got to do better with that header. It's a really weak, soft header from Nick Votamata, whose confidence just looks absolutely drained right now in this football team. Since he was hooked for Wissa, he just does not look the same player. He's come in, the ball's not sticking to him. He's not getting those kind of rub of the green turns. I mean, the referee doesn't give him anything either. He did get fouled a few times today and got absolutely nothing for it whatsoever. But he has a chance, does Votamata. He has a couple of chances, really, in that first half to do something about it. And we just never really looked like penetrating the Wolves goal. They had a couple of chances the other way as well. Started to get a bit more into the game. That Mane has a good shot. He kind of twists and turns, and that's a really good shot. And makes Pope make a save. But they didn't look like they were really offering anything Wolves either. And there was a lot of just back and forth. And for Newcastle United, certainly in the first half, even in the second half as well, it's hard to really pull anything out of that game in terms of good chances for us. It was more just pass and pass and pass and pass and pass and pass. Then they get to the edge of the box and you're like, right, shoot. No, we'll pass and pass and pass and pass and pass. And you're like, just take a fucking shot. I said in our Discord group, if Newcastle United won the Texas School Depository back in Dallas 1963, JFK would still be alive today. That's how bad we are at shooting. It was dreadful. Lewis Hall got pissed off and had a shot a couple of times. Spoiler alert, Lewis Hall's my man on the match by a country mile. He was the only player who looked like he was wanting to do something, whipping in countless crosses that people weren't getting on the end of. Harvey Barnes struggled getting the end of a couple. Votamata was nowhere to be seen for a few of them. I don't want to slag off Votamata, but something is not right since he's been taken out of the team. He just does not look the same player. And you could see he was getting angry at himself. Is it good that he's getting into the positions of chances? Yes, of course it is, but it's not good that he's not putting them away. But the link-up play isn't there. Nobody seems to be around him. I thought it was so static. I text Mark and said, where's the movement? There's just no movement whatsoever. The midfield, Joe Linton was trying to get himself in the box, winning headers, trying to make things happen. Sandro Tonali was a ghost today. Absolutely terrible performance, in my opinion, from Sandro Tonali today. I just thought he'd give the ball away way too many times. At one point, I forgot he was even playing. He'd come off. When did he come off? He'd come off, I think, on the 67th minute mark for Lewis Miley. I'm a big Lewis Miley fan, but I think Lewis Miley did more in about 5 minutes than Sandro did in the entire game. To be brutally honest with you, at least he got on the ball and tried to make things happen. But, just a real poor game in so many ways. And chances as well. Wissa comes on and we don't really see nothing there either. He looks sluggish. He looks slow. I think I said way back when, if you go back and watch the video about his injury, I said, how do we know he's going to come back the same player? What happens if he loses a yard? And he looks like he's lost a yard, more than a yard. Them zip and runs aren't there that we used to see when he was in a Brentford shirt. They're not there. But it doesn't help when your team massively lacks creativity. I'm looking at that bench, and the bench as well, there's nobody to come off that bench who is a creative player. You look at that bench, right? Alanga's confidence is shot to shit. For what it's worth, I thought Alanga looked marginally better today. He looked a little bit lively, wanting to get in the ball and do things, but he still looks like a rabbit in the headlights, but he looked marginally better. Lewis Miley's really tight on the ball, but the problem is as well with some of these players, Trippier in particular, I was getting really pissed off with Trippier because Miley's passing the ball and looking for a give and go, and he's not giving it back to Miley. And you're like, fucking passing the ball. Do something with it. He can wriggle out of tight spaces. He can put a ball across the box. That annoyed me as well. You look at the rest of the subs. Joe Willock is rubbish. He should be binned. Jacob Ramsey, the jury's still out on that for me. And then outside that, you got kids and Aaron Ramsdale. I know he's good with his feet, but he ain't that good. So this team is massively lacking a player that can break down a low blocking side like that. And that's exactly what Wolves did. They flooded that midfield. They had a back three. They said, come to us, Newcastle, and show what you can do. And we couldn't do anything really because we don't have the creativity in the side. We are crying out for a James Maddison, a Jack Grealish, a player like that, a player that could, a Coutinho, as Mark said to me in the messages during the game, what a player that would be for us to have in this side. Somebody that can just pop up in those pockets of space, little dip of a shoulder and a bend and shot in the top bins, or a little through ball into the centre forward to toe poke one away. We don't have that player. And Eddie Howe doesn't seem to want to play with that player. The one player that he had who could do that, Alan St-Maximin, yes, he was frustrating as fuck, but he flicked him the first chance that he got because he didn't fit the Eddie Howe way. And I know the Eddie Howe way has got his Champions League and a cup, but in these scruffy, shitty games like this season that we fail to win, and quite often we're losing these games as well, you need a creative influence. You need a player that can do that. It doesn't sound like we're even doing anything in the transfer market right now. Yes, defenders have become a priority, right? Because the defense is so threadbare. We need to have defenders through the door. But holy shit, right? Just go to AZ Alkmaar and offer them 50 million quid for Keith Schmidt and have a player that can come on and do something in a game like that. Find that little pass or dip a shoulder and hit one of the top bins, because we need a player like that. I know he's only 19 years old. He may not be that player, but certainly everything I've seen about the kid and everything I've heard about the kid says he is that player. Bruno Guimaraes looks tired. He looks leggy. He wasn't far enough up the pitch. Sandro Tonali was awful today. He was just occupying space on the grass. That's all he was doing. Gave the ball away, was poor with his pressing. Positional sense was all over the place. So I think Bruno was having to keep one eye on the back rather than one eye going further forward. When he did go further forward, he probably has one of our rare shots on target. I can't even believe I had 12 shots today. Where the hell they came from? I was having a conversation with Mark before I came on. How the hell did we have 12 shots? Unbelievable. But that was just really, really dull from Newcastle. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like we were awful. It was just dull. There was no end product. It's like an artist with no paint. We just got brushes, empty pots, and water. That's all we've got. Nothing. We've got no colours. We've got nothing to make the canvas look exciting. We're just boring. And that's the problem with this Newcastle United team, in my opinion. They're boring. I know you say, oh, well, Chris, we've just won 4-3 against Leeds, and we're extra time with Bournemouth, and we'll come back 3-3 in the FA Cup and all that. That's because of piss poor defending, really. And outside of Harvey Barnes, we haven't really got a player to pull something out of nothing. Bruno's probably about the only other one who can do it as well. But just the lack of creativity in this Newcastle United team is what has always concerned me about them getting top 5. I just don't think that we got enough of the X factor in this team to get us that top 5. Even look at Liverpool, right? Liverpool are struggling like fuck. They really are, right? And I do laugh about it, especially the way they went on in the summer. But they've still got an Ekitike that can do something out of nothing. They've still got a Wirtz that can do something out of nothing. Even Manchester United under Carrick now look really good against City. They've still got a Brian Mbeumo or a Mateus Cunha who can do something. We don't have a player that can do that outside of Bruno Guimaraes and Barnes. And if they're nullified or running on empty, we just don't have anything like that. And it's so depressing to sit and watch Newcastle United play against a really poor Wolves side who don't have a lot. Let's get it right, outside of the boy Mane, who looked a little bit dangerous, a little bit quick, a little bit exciting, They got nothing. They don't really have a centre forward that can cause any bother. Strand Larson came off the bench, and you thought, well, maybe he'll pop up with a goal for them, but they don't really have any threat, Wolves. That's why they're rock bottom on 7 points, because they don't have a player that can pick it up and do something out of nothing. They don't have that player. Even West Ham have got Jarrod Bowen and even Callum Wilson, who scored the other day from there. West Ham have got some players who could just pop up with a moment for you. Wolves don't really have those players. And we've made them look much better than they are today. They don't look like a bottom of the league side against us. They look like a team that's in the top 10. And that's probably how just vanilla Newcastle were today. Pass, 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 pass. Nobody taking a risk. Nobody got a pair of balls outside of Lewis Hall. Trippier gets closer to a free kick in the second half, but you think to yourself, come on, man, like, what's going on there? I look at Anthony Gordon again today and poor again today. Nice haircut though, Anthony. I do definitely condone the lack of the Krusty the Clown look, but like, he's got no trick, man. I've said this ever since we signed him. He doesn't have a trick. He just tries to run past people, and if the player he's trying to beat has a bit of pace about him, he can't get round them, and he can't do anything else. He hasn't got a step over or a drop of the shoulder or a nutmeg or a Cruyff turn. He got nothing like that. He's got no skill whatsoever. I mean, honestly, the more and more I think about it, right, if we are not going to sign a player like this in this transfer window, which, let's get it right, it doesn't look like we are, right? Why the hell are we not giving the young kid Song Soo a chance off the bench in the academy? He looked really bright in the pre-season. He looked like he had a little bit of skill about him, a little bit of unpredictability about him. And why is he not on the bench at least to come on and try? And in a game like that where we're flat as piss, nobody's creating anything, let the lad come on and just do a little something crazy, a little something zany, little jink into the box, maybe win you a penalty or something like that. What's the harm? I'd rather have him coming on than fucking Joe Willock. What's Joe Willock going to do? Joe Willock is crap. Joe Willock should have been sold years ago, man. Like, get somebody off the bench who can do something. I mean, if that young kid had come off the bench, Song Soo, Wolves would not have any idea who he was unless they watched us in pre-season. They wouldn't have any idea who he was, any idea of what he was about, and he could have come on and just caused a little bit of mayhem for the last 10, 15 minutes in a game that had 0-0 written all over it, and it could have ended up 1-0 to Newcastle. But this manager takes no risks with young, upcoming players, no risks at all. And don't throw Lewis Miley at me, because Lewis Miley has been an absolute superstar in the academy right from the age of fucking 8 onwards. He knew all about Lewis Miley. He couldn't have not give Lewis Miley a chance. And when he come in at 17, he was absolutely brilliant. And you had to keep him in the first team picture because of that reason. And Lewis Miley's been one of the best players we've had this season, but he's dropped them today. I get it, to rest him, for PSV on Wednesday. But Sam Tonali's been awful today. I'm glad he's made the sub, but for me, I would have made it a half time and let Lewis Miley try and have at least a half of football to influence on this game. But just really just poor, rubbish, flat, unimaginative performance from Newcastle today, really. Like I say, they weren't bad. I can't say they were shit. They didn't make any defensive howlers. They didn't miss any sitters. Like Wissa did against City. You could argue that Voltemada's got to be doing more with a header, but I don't know. It just looks really, really flat at the moment. And this team needs an injection of freshness. It needs creativity. It needs excitement. It needs somebody who can just get arses off seats. And we don't have that player in this squad at the moment. There's not one of those players that gets you excited. It really isn't. When they're on the ball, they don't. They just pass and pass and pass and pass. There's nobody who's going to drive at a team and try and win you a free kick or try and get you a goal. Barnes is probably the only player right now who, when he gets the ball, you think he might tuck inside and have a shot and test the keeper. Everybody else in that team is so fucking safe. And it's only about an hour into the game where Bruno goes, right, fuck this, I'm going to try and do something. And that's when Bruno rocks up and tries to either score from a corner or start getting into the box. But he couldn't do that today because his midfield partners were so poor in terms of Sandro Tonali as well. But yeah, really flat, really disappointing. And if you think that team is going to get a top 5 place at the end of this season, I'm sorry, guys, you're in cuckoo land, because without creativity, we're not going to win these games ahead of us. But let's get to some of your comments there, guys. We'll come to super chats. Thank you so much for that. Lou Ray James, really appreciate that. Chippers is in the house. Pep need to show some ambition, sack Eddie and get a manager who literally wants to win. Well, Xavi Alonso's available, Chippers, but I have a feeling he's going to go to Liverpool because I think old Arnie Slot's jacket is on a shaky nail, as my dad would say. Big Al saying, were we trying to walk it in? Exactly, mate. Fuck's sake, have a shot. I was screaming that, Al. Just shoot. Somebody shoot. Why weren't you shooting? See, on the free kicks as well, more times you had free kicks to the left-hand side, you could just see Lewis Hall was thinking, I'm going to have a fucking shot here. But then he didn't. I'd have just had a shot, Lewis Hall. Man of the match by a mile for me. The predictability has become a start of fair, Marcus. Yeah, absolutely. Anonymous, what a boring shit game that was. Yeah, 100%. Stephen says, I'm not sure Mrs. Howe would be defending that performance, but believe it or not, plenty will. The idolaters. Yeah, no, you're not. Eddie Howe can do no wrong for these people. For me, he's built a team of athletes and runners, right? And that's great when you're trying to press a game like Man City or Liverpool when they're in good form, or Arsenal or something like that, where you're the underdog and you're going to press them and rattle them and get the ball off them. But when you have to be the team who's got the ball and be the team who has to play and break teams down, a team of athletes and runners ain't going to do that for you. You need a technician or two, and this manager's too one-dimensional, and he hasn't signed them. So therein lies the problem. Andrew's saying, I've seen that game 10 times this season. Bored shitless. I totally agree, Andrew. Totally agree, mate. Dull as dishwater. We need some excitement in this squad. Get some technical ability in this squad. They don't have to start every week, but get him in this squad, man. It's a squad game. You've got runners and you've got technicians in squads. Just mix it up a bit. Mick saying, should have watched Last of the Summer Wine instead. Just marginally younger than Kieran Trippier, some of that cast. Again, another super chat from Louis James. Thanks, buddy. 2 steps forward, 4 steps back with his team. A chance to go 5th, 1 point from 4th. Again, the worst team in the league, and we fucked it. Standard Newcastle, mate. Standard Newcastle this season. Martin says, fucking awful, so bored. I'm so bored of this team, especially away from home. So bored. And let's get it right. At home, a lot of the time, it's the crowd that roars them up enough to put a performance in. There's times at home when they've been shit as well, but they're getting a free pass off lots of people. And I think that free pass is running out massively. Roger's in the house. Good to see Roger. An afternoon time. I'll never get back. What a dull game of football. Yeah, totally agree with that, Bonnie lad. Marty Mark saying the subs made absolutely no impact today. Wissa and Alanga are terrible. Yeah, it's very hard to disagree with that. 110 million, by the way. Wow. Look at that. By the way, just for context, Semenyo was 65 million. I think Kudos was about 60 million. So you're paying marginally less for those two players. And what the fuck have them two done for us since we've signed them? Not a lot. Kay saying, fed up this rubbish. We need multiple signings. Absolutely. And he's become a new member. Thank you very much, buddy. Thanks for clicking that button. We'll see you in a Discord group where all opinions are welcome without any fear of vilification like you get on social media. Viva Vendetta saying, carbon copy of just about every away day. This is what we get with Howe. We have a team with no imagination, no pride, no standards. of football is not enjoyable. It's a slog to watch. Sack him. It's really hard to disagree with that point where people are making the case for a managerial refresh, because we're seeing that over and over and over again. He has a couple of decent performances or a couple of decent results, shall I say, and then everyone's back to Eddie on board, right? Now, listen, I'm not saying sack him mid-season because I don't think that they will, and that probably wouldn't really do us any favors right now because we're not massively adrift from finishing in a good position. But the more this manager plays the same Groundhog Day, Bill Murray FC shit in the away games, right, the less chance we're going to have of finishing in those European places. I still think we finish outside of the European places at the end of the season. We've left way too many points out on the table because of lackluster shit performances like that, where we haven't had a shot, we haven't had any imagination, we haven't had any balls to try and take a risk in a game. If someone like Lewis Miley comes on, right, takes a shot and misses, I'm not going to yell at him. I'm not going to have a go at him, right? Takes a shot. Maybe they rebound and have a chance or whatever. At least he's tried to have a shot. You got to say he's tried to test the goalkeeper, but these players, where are they? Where's Anthony Gordon? Where are these players? Where's Bruno Guimaraes? Where's Harvey Barnes? Where are these players to have a shot? I mean, even Barnes today looked shot shy. He's trying to tuck inside, and, fair play to Wolves, credit to Wolves. They might have sniffed that out and tried to go 2-on-1 and block them off. But someone's got to have a fucking crack here, especially when you're coming right towards the end of the game, and Trippier has that free kick effort. It's probably the best chance we've got, really. Joe Linton has a really weak header that should be going past the goalkeeper and nut it into the ground. He heads it straight at the goalkeeper. And the chances that felt us were just we were just so wasteful with, man. So wasteful with. You know, and PSV, by the way, were class against Liverpool in the Champions League the last time around. There's no guarantee we'll beat these on Wednesday either. All these fans go, oh, sorry, we'll beat PSV on Wednesday and we'll get through the Champions League knockout stages. That's great, right? If we do. But we're not going to get the Champions League next season. We keep playing like that in the Premier League because we're just not going to get the fucking wins. Simple as that. As Roger says, possession doesn't win out as a statistic. Absolutely not. Chris says, Bruno, man of the match. I mean, Bruno did try towards the end. I'll give him that, mate. He wasn't bad, Bruno, but I thought Lewis Hall was just better for me, Chris. I thought at least he tried to, you know, he didn't just defend well. He was putting in multiple crosses. Where was his centre forwards, man? The amount of crosses Lewis Hall is whipping across the box. Waltermauder's on his heels. Wisser's on his heels. Where the fuck are they? We've got no midfielders who attack the space. They're all just sitting back 25 yards from the box or something. You're like, what are you doing? Get in the box, for fuck's sake. Again, Lou James saying, how did Ramsey not get a look in today? Langer is shite. Gordon must have photos of Eddie with another woman. Yeah, maybe it's Gordon with his long hair. Young Grexy saying, lots of players look leggy today. Yeah, but this is the problem though, Young Grexy. He's not rotating the squad. You know, even in the FA Cup, right? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. We've got Villa away in the next round of the FA Cup. That's a tough game. I'm sure we'll win that, right? But if he'd rested the squad against Bournemouth and rested tired legs, brought in some of the youth team players and some reserve team players, right? And if we went out, right? I don't think anyone was that bothered, right? Of course, we don't want to go out the FA Cup really ideally, but if we'd gone out the FA Cup, the fans wouldn't have been that arse because we would have been fresher for Tuesday night against City. You might have got a good result in that first leg. Bouncing this game with a bit of confidence and a bit of freshness still because the lads haven't played 120 minutes against Bournemouth and then gone again against City, you know, a few days later. He doesn't rotate the squad enough. He doesn't use the youth. You know, if you're not going to get players in your squad in terms of signings, right, use the academy. That's what they're there for. You know, no point in having the likes of Shahar and Neve on the bench. You've given them 0 minutes. 0 minutes. There's no point. It really isn't. It really pisses me off. Massively annoys me. Again, Chris is saying, I thought we were much better than most away games. Alanga was better. I can't really understand the negativity. Wolves are fighting at home for survival. But the shit, Chris, that's where the negativity comes from. And we've got the chances to win that game and we don't take it. And there's no risk. There's no risk from Newcastle. They risked nothing today. They didn't risk anything to get 3 points today. They bottled it. They were just passing. Nobody wanted to step up and go, right, fuck it. I'm going to try and win this game for us. Not a single one of them. And that's why I'm annoyed, because not a single one of them players against a poor Wolves side said, let's do something and win this game because it's there to be won. That's what annoys me. Michael saying, how does the same thing week in, week out against a low block, hoping something different will happen, which is really worrying. That's the thing, Michael. And he's not doing the thing that he needs to do. And that's sign a creative player and put your creative player in against low blocking sides. That's the whole point of having those players. You know, like I say, a Maddison, a Grealish, a Coutinho, you know, even a Maxi in a game like that would have done something, you know. Even a Harry Wilson for Fulham in a game like that might have done something. You know, pop up on the edge of the box with a shot from distance that goes in, or the keeper palms it over to Wisso, taps it in. But we haven't got the players to do that. Our midfield is too similar. It's pass. Fucking shoot. There was a time where Tonali got in the box and he takes a touch. Just have a shot. Just, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? The keeper's going to save it. At least have a shot. Have a try. And they knocked me water over there. That's how annoyed I am. You know, just have a shot. I don't get it. I don't understand why they're not shooting. That's really pissing me off. Again, another comment said, Gordon must have some dirt on how other fuckers keeps our best player out of position. Shocking. Barnes has got to be on the left for me. Got to be on the left. Raymond saying, hi, Chris. Man of the match is Bruno. No, not for me, mate. Hall for me, but each to their own, mate. So disappointed with Wisser, says Marco. Yeah, I think Wisser looks like he's good 2 or 3 yards off massively. Yeah, you and Grexy agrees with me. Hall, man, the match. Droffy saying, spot on about Gordon, Chris. He looks dejected when he's hooked. He does fuck all, though, Droffy. Like, you can't be dejected when you've done nothing in the game. He's got no trick. I mean, he couldn't beat an egg with a fucking whisk, Anthony Gordon. He really couldn't, right? In his mind, he thinks he's Cristiano Ronaldo. He's fucking not at all. Not at all. He's Hans Christian Andersen. That's about as close as he is to Cristiano Ronaldo, telling stories about how good he is. He's not a, what's the right word? You know, Barnes is a chance creator and a chance finisher, right? That's what Barnes does. Barnes is a match winner. Gordon's not a match winner. He just runs around and runs around and runs around. When was the last time Anthony Gordon really won a game for us outside of taking a fucking shot from 12 yards from a penalty and putting it away? Just doesn't do it. Cruz saying, need a creative midfielder. Got too many workhorses. Absolutely. We need some silk with this steel Eddie Howe. That's what we need. There's no point just having steel. You got to have a bit of finesse, my friend. That's what we need to win these games. I'm fucking sick and tired of watching these games peter out because we don't have that player with a little bit of sense and creativity, imagination, and balls to go, fuck it, I'm going to have a shot here, or I'm going to chip that keeper, or I'm going to slip that through ball through. We don't have those players, absolutely not. Terry saying the whole game lacked a desire to win, absolutely, in my opinion. Baz is saying, been sat in the fence for how, but a hierarchy, you're going to trust him with cash for future transfers. I'm afraid his time's up for me. Yeah, don't disagree with that. Glasner seems to be available, says Stephen. Well, I don't think Glasner will be short of jobs. Leo's in the house saying you have to wait until after the World Cup if you want a decent manager. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I would like Nagelsmann personally from Germany. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'd like Xavi Alonso if he hangs around till the summer. But as I said, I think he's going to be at Liverpool soon. Marcus says, "How must be the only manager of the Premier League that isn't shouting for new signings?" But he'll just give you some cotton ball story about, "Oh, don't worry, Dan Burn's back soon and Willis Sula's back." You know, I know I said on Twitter the other day that Willis Sula's got to play instead of Elanga because I'm totally done with Elanga. But that doesn't mean I think Willis Sula's good. I just think he's better than Elanga. But that doesn't say much for Anthony Elanga. Liam saying I was trying to stay awake watching that. Yeah, well done, mate. I was nodding off. Thank God there's still some Christmas chockies around. A couple of Galaxy Caramels and Mars Bar Minis. The old celebrations kept me awake, mate. Leah's saying get Glasner in, please. Yeah, I don't disagree with people asking for a new manager. Dean saying 2 shots on target from Newcastle from the same move in the 84th minute. Yeah, 84th minute against bottom of the table Wolves. As Charlie says there, we were toothless today. Absolutely. We couldn't even eat soup today. That's how toothless we were. Johnny's saying, did you see Gordon and Tonali sat beside you on the bench, haven't been sub? Neither look, they're being brought off. Get rid of both. Well, I think both will be gone in the summer, Johnny. I think Tonali wants away. I've said that numerous times. And do you know what? He's not playing anywhere near good enough, in my opinion, to oust Lewis Miley from that midfield at all. No chance. And Gordon has done fuck all for a year and a half. How he started ahead of Barnes is absolutely beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. He's getting played on reputation, not on form. And Howe gives all this bullshit about how players on form will get the shirt and keep the shirt. Bollocks. He plays the players he wants to play. Gordon should be nowhere near that team. So the only reason that he is in that team right now is because we're so shit on the right-hand side. Now Murphy's injured. Barnes is always going to start on the right and Gordon's going to start on the left. But Gordon is running out of games to try to influence to show he's the player he thinks he is. But you watch in the Champions League, you watch a different performance from Anthony Gordon against PSV on Wednesday. I bet he turns up in that game because all the eyes will be watching him. He wants Thomas Tuchel to remember what a great player he is, and we'll see a better Gordon in that competition than we see in the Premier League as well. I guarantee it. Trademark saying, days like this convince me we'll miss Europe. Yeah, I'm already there, mate, been there all season. Sent from the TOON Review. Good to see you. Thanks to the guys in the TOON Review. Legends they are. Absolute legends. I'm sure they've been blowing a gasket watching that shit on the match day commentary. Golden Banjo saying, going to be a tough month. Strap yourself in. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you keep playing like that. Attacker number 2 saying Newcastle's pass completion rate in the first half against Wolves, 94%, was the highest of any team in a half of football in the Premier League without recording a shot, wow, on target since 2023. What a damning stat. Pass. No shot. Honestly, all fart, no shite. Dreadful. George is saying there's something wrong with our left full-back. Is consistently our most skillful player week in, week out. I know it's like he's Roberto Carlos, isn't it? Playing for Stoke. That's kind of how it looks. Viva Vendetta said, our next run of fixtures are terrifying. Yeah, they're not good. If we keep playing like that, we are in big trouble. Can't see us winning an away game until April, says Phil. Don't disagree with that either. Coming from 888 Dave 88. Love that, mate. It's like a betting site, isn't it? Bet responsibly. We so bad and need a creative midfielder for low box. Why is the manager not doing it, though? We could see that. Everyone's been able to see that for the last 3 windows. We need a creative midfielder. He's just done nothing about it. I don't get it. It's weird, right? If you want to play Bruno there, because Bruno can carve something out of nothing, Bruno can do something, right? Then okay, fine. Play a double pivot midfield with Lewis Miley and Sandro Tonali, drop Joe Linton out of the team altogether and stick Bruno in behind the centre forward, right? There's your midfield 3. But he doesn't do that either because he needs Joe Linton's strength and Joe Linton's power and his physicality and all this fucking nonsense. And I'm not saying Joe Linton was bad today, but if you're going to want to play with a creative player, you've got to have a double pivot midfield and the creative midfielder who's the furthest point of the midfield 3. And that works. Lewis Miley and Tonali good in the ball. Unless Tonali's form keeps playing shit, then don't play Tonali. But Joe Linton's not got the discipline to play in that double pivot, right? So maybe you play Bruno and Miley and Ramsey as the attacking midfielder. But you got the players in your squad to try something, but he doesn't try anything. It's the same shit week in, week out. I'd love to be an opposing manager against him. I reckon I'd get a point against him, or 3, because I know exactly what he's going to do. I know exactly when he's going to bring subs on. I know what formation he's going to play. I know who he's going to change out for who. You know, Christ almighty, I could manage against this bloke. I generally believe I could. I'll manage somebody next week who's shit. I'll manage them next week. Honestly, Palace, Glasner can leave. I'll have a Palace game against Howe and see who comes out top as manager. John saying definition of insanity, doing the same things, yeah, expecting different results. Absolutely. Tyneside updates is saying the things for the centre forwards, if we're playing them in the same style of play as Isaac used to, it doesn't work yet with Whistle Model. I'm really worried about the centre forward position here. I really, really am. Good comment there from Stuart saying Whistle looks like Cisse at the end of his career. You're not the Cisse that came in. That's a great shout, Dave. Screaming for a Morgan Rogers, right? If Villa are in PSR shit, go and throw 50 million at Villa for Morgan Rogers. There's a player that would sort us out big time. Villa will sell big players for the right money. If we chuck money at Villa for Morgan Rogers, why not? Give it a dabble, but I doubt they will. It was Gordon has a great future behind him, says our grid designer. Yeah, at Arsenal, hopefully, mate. Not here because he's fucking washed at Newcastle. I tell you what. Another super chat from Blue. Thank you, mate. Sign a left back and play Hall right wing and Barnes left wing. Yeah, it's not a bad shout, to be fair. And do the old inside of the foot job. But yeah, it's so disappointing, the lack of creativity in the squad. It really is. It drives me mad. You know, like I say, he's not trying anything different. That's what pisses me off. It's like he thinks he'll just play through it. If I just keep doing what I do, it'll turn eventually. And you're like, well, nah, it's not really working, is it, Eddie? You know, away from home, it ain't working, right? So either change your formation away from home, or change your game plan, or change your personnel, or do you know what? Change all of it at the same time, because whatever you're doing ain't working. Your 4-3-3 ain't working away from home. People have worked you out. You're not creating chances. You're conceding goals. It's not working. Try something different, mate. You know, that's the whole point of being a manager, flexibility and adaptability, right? And this manager doesn't have it. He just goes one way all the fucking time, and that's it. You know, yes, it won us a trophy. Woohoo, brilliant. And it got us Champions League. Woohoo, brilliant, right? But we ain't getting wins now, and we ain't getting results against teams we should be beating. So we're not going to get Champions League this season. We're not going to win a cup this season. So what's your argument going to be next season when this is still happening? I don't think he's here next season, personally. I think if he doesn't get Europe, he's gone. And that's just the facts, Jack. That's what I think. Mac at JMC is saying, spent most of the afternoon defrosting the freezer with the match on in the background. The freezer was more entertaining. I can believe it, mate. I can believe it. Probably less frozen than some of our players as well. Static as hell today. Honestly, they were that slow. I thought a pigeon was going to land on them. That's still. Dan saying, we'd be better off parking the bus versus teams like Wolves, countering instead of trying to play Howe's shit brand of possession football. And super chat, thank you very much. But yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Steven says, man, the Galaxy caramel bars kill me quicker than the stickies. The salt caramel ones, like the heroin of chocolate bars. I know, mate. It's a problem. The problem after Christmas, isn't it? There's still too many chockies around. That is the problem. And Chris has been a member for 5 months. Thank you, mate. We need a number 10. 100%, mate. We need a number 10. There is no doubt about that at all. Audrey says Wolves were a better team. Yeah, I don't disagree, Audrey, at all. I think Wolves were a better team. I think Wolves probably deserved to win that game. I think if they had carved a couple of proper chances and they'd have taken them, if they'd had a proper centre forward, maybe if Strand Larson had got in a good position, they might have done that. You know, and you couldn't have argued if Wolves had won that game. You couldn't have argued at all. You really couldn't, because we were just offered very, very little today. Liam says, even if we get Conference League, I think how it goes. Yeah, I think he does. It's weird though, because the PIF, in their mind now, they want to be a Champions League team every single year, right? You hear the players talking about it. Champions League's our target every single year, right? Champions League's our target every single year. We ain't get that. Our team ain't getting Champions League. We ain't getting Champions League, right? I know the Premier League is very concertinaed, and if you lose 2 games, you know, you drop down to 14th, and if you win 2 games, you know, then you're up again to whatever it is, 5th or 6th or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's the way the league is right now. But you need to have a bit of consistency to try and finish in those top 5-4 positions, and we've got no consistency whatsoever. And I don't think we'll finish there. I'm not saying we're going to be shit. You know, I think we'll finish probably maybe 8th, maybe 9th, possibly 10th to the push. But I just don't think that we're going to get anywhere near those top 5 spots. I really genuinely don't. And you know, I've got no issues whatsoever in terms of people talking about the manager. Comment there from Mark saying, lads calling for how out, give their heads up. But it's their decision, Mark. In our chat, you're welcome to have an opinion. If you think the manager's lost it and he should be replaced, then you're entitled to that opinion. If you think the manager's great, like you clearly do, Mark, and you think he's the man to take us forward, then that's fine, right? Do you know what? Show your workings out, lads and lasses. Tell us why you think the manager's great. Tell us why you think the manager's bad. And sometimes you can agree to disagree in part ways, right? One thing we all want is a Newcastle United that's winning games like this. And at the minute, that's not what we've got. So there's got to be a problem somewhere. Is it the players? Is it the manager? Probably a little bit of both. But let's not attack each other for having an opinion. The opinions will differ, but at the end of the day, if a team doesn't win games, it does go back on the manager. It really, really does. Lewis says, Voldemort is a great striker, but for another club. I mean, this is the big thing, Lewis, isn't it? I mean, I like Voldemort. He seems like a proper canny lad as well. And he's got skill, but he slows the game down. So in a good way, he slows the game down. So the whole point of a striker like Nick Voldemort is you've got players around him. You've either got a 10 in behind him if he's playing as the 9 who can, either feed him the ball, let him hold it up, and then go around him when he rolls the players or when he flicks it. So the 10's probably following in to have a goal scoring opportunity, right? Or even a return pass back to Voldemort if they play a nice 1-2 at the edge of the box. We don't have that player. So that's a problem. He also needs wingers to go beyond him and maybe cut in. And we don't do that either. They were talking about this on the overlap the other day with Gary Neville. Our wingers stay too wide. So when Voldemort comes central, comes deep, and gets the ball at the feet or chests it down or whatever, and he's already looking over his shoulder for those runners. The runners aren't there. And he's like, oh, what do I do now? And then he's got to either pop it back to the midfield or try and turn and pass it out wide. But by the time he passes out wide, he's too slow to get into the box for what is often a first-time cross from either Jacob Murphy or Harvey Barnes or Kieran Trippier or somebody else. He's not got that pace to get in there. So we aren't playing to Voldemort's strengths, and he's not clicking with the teammates around him. So you got to maybe question that signing in terms of the educational side or the smart side of signing that player. I'm not saying Voldemort is a bad player. I think he's a really good player, but maybe he didn't fit our system. We went for Ekitike, who was a pacey striker who can run off the shoulder and in between gaps, like Isak did. Didn't get him. Went for Sesko, who's a pacey centre forward who's strong as well. Didn't get him either. These are two players who probably would have fit our system better than Nick Voldemort. So we ended up with Nick Voldemort, who's got probably equal or better stats than both of those players, despite the fact that this team isn't geared up for him. And that's testament to probably Voldemort's ability to finish and to get into opportunity in the spaces where he can put chances away. But this manager's doing him no favors whatsoever. He's playing the same shape week in, week out, and it's clearly not working for Voldemort. But Wissa was supposed to be the answer to all the questions, but now Wissa's come back and he looks a yard off because he's got that injury. Got a tap in against Fulham. And you think, oh yeah, he's class. We've now got that centre forward who can do what Isak did, but he's not an Isak. The top and bottom of it is here. I said this in one of the videos. We lost the second best centre forward in the Premier League outside of Erling Haaland, probably one of the best centre forwards in world football at that particular moment. We sold him for 125 million quid. We bought two guys, one for 55 million, who was way overpriced. We probably paid 25 million more for Vissa than we should have done. And then we signed this other lad for 65 or 67 million or wherever he was, 69 million, in Nick Voldemort, who Bayern Munich wanted to replace Harry Kane. Now, in the Bayern Munich side, Voldemort would be unbelievable because he's got runners off him. But we've signed this kid who's nothing like the profile of striker that we've just left or lost. And Howe's not doing anything to change the game plan. That's got to fall on the manager, whether you love Eddie Howe or not. You've got to look to Eddie Howe and Tyndall and Jones and go, what he's doing to get this team geared up to play for this lad's strengths. And they're just not doing it at all. Not doing it whatsoever. It's really, really poor. Stephen says, if you had a time machine, Chris, what career midfielder from our past would you stick in the DeLorean? Ooh, good question. In this team currently, I'd got to go for Peter Beardsley. I think I'd go for Peter Beardsley because he would have that ability to create and score. And I saw Peter Beardsley even probably towards the back end of his career at Newcastle, and he was absolutely outstanding. Either Peter Beardsley or Ben Arthur before he got the leg breaks. I think he would have been absolutely phenomenal, really. But yeah, I've got to go Peter Beardsley for me. But we do need to create a midfield. There's no doubt about that at all. James is saying it's 8's good enough for the conference this season. I'd accept that. It's important to get any form of Europe every season and keep moving up the ranks, which means a bigger share of points. Yeah, I get it, but will PIF accept that though, James? That is the question. And maybe they won't. But I do think Eddie's time is running out. I generally do. I think if Tuchel leaves after the World Cup, which I think is a strong possibility, because Tuchel will fancy a club job. I'd take Tuchel in Newcastle, to be honest with you, but that's another story for another day. But if Tuchel fancies another job in club football, I think Howe will go take the England job. I generally think that'll happen in the summer after the World Cup. Liam saying, Chris, if this performance was under Bruce, what do you think the reaction from the fan base would be? Vitriolic, mate. Vitriolic. They would go crazy. I've never seen a manager get such a free pass than Eddie Howe in my entire football and supporting career. And yeah, he's got credit in the bank from what he's done in terms of Champions League finishes and in the cup. But some of the dross we've been playing this season is straight out of the Steve Bruce, Alan Pardew, even John Carver days, the Allardyce days. And the fans just seem to be happy to take it. And they're attacking fans for calling it out and saying, well, that's fucking shit. And why is he not doing this? And why are you playing him instead of him? What the fuck's going on? And then, you're negative. Oh, go support somebody else, you. What? Like, mental. Never heard anything like it in my life. We don't deserve Europe, but maybe selling Gordon, Tonali and Tino might help us out in the long run. Reinvest it correctly, maybe buy a new manager. Well, Gordon has done nothing for 18 months, so he can go. Tonali sounds like he's homesick. He can go. And Lewis Miley can come in and do that role, in my opinion. Do you know how I would... Oh, bloody hell, what has gone near me? Phone's going off, stupid thing. I said Gordon, not the other G, silly bloody thing. Technology, eh? But Gordon can go, Tonali can go. Do you know what I would do if we sold Tonali? I really hope that Forest gets sucked into the relegation battle, because I would go for Anderson in the summer. I'd go for Anderson and I'd go for Gibbs-White as well. That's what I would do. I'd go for Anderson and Gibbs-White, and I'd get them both from Nottingham Forest, because they would improve us exponentially. And Tino's too injury prone. If somebody wants to pay 75 million quid for a lad who keeps getting injured all the time, sell him. He's a great player. I do like him, but he can't cross a ball. He's lightning quick, defends well, but can't cross a ball, and he gets injured all the time. So do the maths. S Gamer saying our next 5 fixtures look scary. Yeah, they absolutely do. Mark saying, do you think Worcester's a couple of yards off due to significant injury and no pre-season? Both, Mark, both. I think having no pre-season, and I said it at the time, was awful from Visser. Same with Isak. That just goes to show you spitting your dummy out and acting like a brat does you no favours as a player. One's broke his leg and he's out the whole season, and the other one can't get going. He's missed the African Cup of Nations as well. Chance to maybe, win something for his country. So both of those players, from their selfish actions in the summer, have cost themselves this season. So in hindsight, they were both terrible for making those decisions. But I do think that has cost Visser and Newcastle, because if we'd had Visser in a good preseason, chance to work and get his match fitness up, he may have won us those early games in the season, and we could be in a better position in the league now and not even be having these conversations. And Voltemada could have had time to settle in, and we could have understood him better, and he could have understood us better, and we'd had a bit more of a transitional period there. But it's all gone shit, really, hasn't it? Let's be honest. Yeah, George says Beardsley the best player we've ever had, 100%. TOON says Kabay, what a player, man. He could do the silk and the steel together. Good Johan Kabay. God, what would give for a player like that? Pop Mag says Wiss's goal for Brentford last year was pretty low quality. He's not a clinical finisher, yet we dropped 55 million on him. Poof. Scary stuff. Ben Arthur for me, says S Gamer. Absolutely. He was great on his day, Ben Arthur. Just didn't have enough days, did he? And Dave says, I'd 100% sell Gordon. There's way better wingers that do much more. He's just a speedster. I think somebody said in the comments right up at the top about Kubo from, is it Sociedad? I'd have Kubo any day of the week over Anthony Gordon. He's got skill. He can beat a player. He's got the ability to score and create as well. Why are we not shopping in the continent for players? Why are we not going picking up players for 25, 30 million? Why we're blowing 55 million quids on Alangas and Vissers and 40 million quids on Ramses, where, look at Keith Schmidt, right? The next Kevin De Bruyne, they're calling them. The whole of Europe wants to sign him. They put a 40 million quid price tag on him, right? Because they know he's a prize asset, right? If we'd spent 45 million quid on him, would he have done more for us than Jacob Ramsey? Maybe because, when we signed Ramsey, I think I said it. I don't remember last time I said, oh, he's had a great game for Villa, to be honest with you. So, yeah, not great, is it? Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate that, Bonnie Land. Another one from James is saying, Eddie can't keep playing 4-3-3 away from home because teams are worked out. He's got to change, for me, to the 4-2-3-1 away from home. He's got to play that double pivot midfield so it can control the ball. And for me right now, on form, if you've got a fit right back, that is, has to be Lewis Miley and Bruno Guimaraes in that double pivot. You play Nick Voltemada in the 10, you play Visser up front, and then you play Barnes and Gordon either side. That's the lineup. If he starts that lineup today, I think we might win that game because Visser's in the 10. Sorry, Voltemada's in the 10. He's finding those pockets of space to thread the balls through like he did for Barnes in the cup, but he won't do it. 4-3-3, 4-3-3. I've seen some people crapping on the 4-2-3-1 when we played against Bournemouth in the cup. But I thought it was all right. Bournemouth are a better team than Wolves. If we played that against Wolves today, we could have annihilated them. And I think it would have given us a little bit of confidence that we could do that. Dave says, why we're not using loans? Because Shola's in charge of loans, mate. Enough said. He's only good at riding bikes and eating apples, is Shola. Not very good at anything else, to be fair. Dan Kane is saying, hi, Chris. That was shite. Gordon was rubbish. Tonali and Wisser. Voltemada shocking. How have not one of our players scored a header really poor? Looked like a friendly. It did look like a soccer aid game, didn't it? I thought James Corden was coming on in the second half. That's how fucking crap it was. It really, really was. Colin's not happy with Langer. Yeah. Marginally better today when he come on, but he's still not good enough, really, in my opinion. Again, Lewis is saying he's just not strong enough to do what he needs to do at the moment. Harry Kane holds the ball for 1 or 2 seconds longer and either finds a pass or gets a foul. Voltemada just can't hold it that long yet. Maybe he needs to beef up at the gym, Lewis. I've heard people say that as well, that he's quite lightweight. He's quite slight as Voltemada. Needs to beefen up a little bit, make himself a little bit bigger, and just be a bit stronger on the ball. Maybe win a free kick or two here or there. I mean, the ref didn't do many favors today either, in all fairness, but I just think he needs to maybe hit the weights a bit as Voltemada. Maybe that's part of his development, possibly. John says, looking back, I think Mitchell was one who got us 20 million for Lloyd Kelly. Very, very unlikely age to move a player on he knows personally. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is with Mitchell, he was a bit of a knob. I mean, I work in sales in my day job, and there's plenty of people you would use that moniker for. Very Marmite, you either love them or you hate them. But sometimes they get results, and that's what you got to put up with. That sometimes they're really good at their jobs, but they're just knobs. And I think the problem is maybe Mitchell was really good at his job, but he was just a bit of a dick. I just think that rattled people, and they didn't particularly like that. So he was shown the door, and I think that's the issue for Mitchell. Part Mag says Sesko would have cooked in Newcastle. I actually think, and I said that at the time, I think the Sesko move to Newcastle was a much better move for Sesko and for Newcastle. He fit our system. He had that ability to run into space. He could hold the ball up. He was strong. He was good in the air, quick. Takes a shot from range. I think Sesko will look back and regret that Manchester United move. And it looks like character didn't fancy him either. First game in Derby, he plays in Burmo up front. He's got Burmo and Cunha that can play up front. So I think Sesko will probably have even less game time at Manchester United if Carrick's going to have it till the end of the season, which he is. And if he does well, Sesko might drop down the pecking order even more. So I think looking back at it, Sesko will probably regret that move. They'll never say it out loud, but I think he will. He will definitely regret that move. What a shout that is from Stuart Shinola. Imagine Shinola in this team, man. He could teach these lads a few things or two. Absolutely. He's an unbelievable player, was David Shinola. We'll get a few more comments, guys, and then we'll do a shoot because we've all got Sunday nights to get. So what are you doing this Sunday night? I think I'm going to get myself a little cheeky bit of food, I think, somewhere. So I'm going to be doing. We've got a comment there from Magpie 50. Agree, Chris, the system we have simply does not and isn't working. Why can't Eddie say it? Because he's stubborn. 50, that's what it is. He's stubborn. Fiddy. They went all street there, Fiddy. He's stubborn and he won't change his mind. And it'll be the end of him. It'll be the end of him as Newcastle manager because he's too stubborn and he does not listen and he will not change. He will not change. The moment says Trippier's passing side to side was so frustrating. He's still good on the ball, Trippier, but he's so off the pace, man. I mean, a bit of a bad knock he got the day with that tackle. It was never intentional, but good on the ball, Trippier. But I just worry if he goes further up the park, he just gets lost and he can't get back in time. Leo says, I think Anderson's nailed on for Man City. Yeah, it depends, because I think if we sold Tonali and the chance for him to come back and play for Newcastle, I think Newcastle would go for it. And I think we'd get him. I think we would if we spent the money. Vincent says, Gibbs White's a good shout, Chris. Good luck dealing with the mafia owner, though. Yeah, he's a fucking nutter, and he's an absolute fucking nutter as their owner. But he might very well have to do something. And sell players, especially if they go down. That's why I'm kind of hoping they go down. But I like Sean Dyche. I love that what he said the other day about the handball. He said if you're going to have that, you might as well just end football, which I thought was quite good, because Sean Dyche is quite down the middle, isn't he? To be fair, I do quite like that. Scroll down his comments here, guys. Yeah, David says we are shite. Hard to disagree with that, David. Hard to disagree with that. That's a great match summary, mate. I've been talking for nearly an hour and you've just hit the nail on the head in one sentence. Well done, mate. Well done. Let's get a couple more there. Yeah, we should go for Mateta. Why not? I'd go for Mateta, Devon, especially with Palace. Bloody sinking ship at the minute. Could go for Adam Wharton while we're at it, but we probably won't, because Joe Willock's a valuable squad player, probably anyhow, I would say, because that's what he does. He likes to keep shit players for too long. Scrolling down the list here, guys. Oh, yeah, good show. Lauren Robert, well said. Addy Bird, what a player, man. Them 2 goals against Spurs were still absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. ITZ, UK Dan G says, Eddie Howe's a one-trick pony, won't change either, considering he said he relies on plan B, means plan A is flawed. Howe will die on that hill instead of tweaking things. He will. He'll absolutely will. And then I think a lot of the people who having a go at you for criticising Howe will be on the bandwagon. Hello, Tyson. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you in the chat. Couple more comments here, guys, and then I go. Scrolling down here. I think Mark's disappeared in the background somewhere, wherever he is. Okay, yeah. Come there for Magpie 50. Chris, if we can just get 3 points from our next 4 or 5 away games, I'll buy you drinks for a night out. I think your money is safe, mate, the way we're playing. Honestly, your money is safe. Bruni Bruin saying we aren't shite, we just can't finish because we're centre forwards aren't good enough. That's probably the issue, isn't it? Again, Hudson McWilliams is saying such a poor experience watching us on the ball. It really is. It really is. Scott Screamus says as soon as we get kicked off, I knew it was going to be one of those games. We have all that possession, do sweet FA with it. But that's the thing. But Howell just say the same old shit over and over again when he, about how, I liked us in moments today. It wasn't our best effort, blah, blah, blah. We asked the players to empty, blah, blah, blah. Just the same old fucking crap, every single week. It really, really is. Good shout from Kiwi Toon. Bet you Nick would score more with Nobby on the right and Robert on the left. Imagine playing a right foot and a left footer on the correct flanks. Yeah, that's not the way football's gone, mate. But I agree with you. Proper wingers to put crosses in, thought Amada would score more goals. Mind you, Harvey Barnes did that today, and he should have done a bit better with that one. Mark said, here's my working now. Eddie has a limited number of fit pros. Okay. He's shown a consistent level of success in his tenure in terms of win rate and a trophy. Lost a world-class striker less than 6 months. Well, I hear what you're saying, Mark. I'm not having a go at you. But the reason that he's got a limited number of pros because he won't rotate the squad. He won't take a risk with young players. He won't rotate the squad enough to bring players in. He insists on playing the same old players week in, week out, regardless of form or fitness. He runs them into the ground. He does not use his squad enough. Even the 15 or 16 that he has, he does not use them enough. Doesn't interchange. Like, for example, Tonali's off form and looks like he's hanging out of his arse, and he plays them again and again and again and again. Even when Lewis Miley's doing well in midfield, Lewis Miley's bench, but Tonali starts. Like when we had Trippier and Burn at fullback, and he played them week in, week out, we still had Hall and Tino to come in. So he does it again and again and again. He burns players into the ground, and then he complains about injuries, and he doesn't look to rotate the squad or change things up or even alter the tactics to stop them from burning themselves out potentially. And that's the issue. And that's the issue for me. And that's why he'll never change, because he doesn't see what he's doing. He doesn't see the wrong bits that he's doing. Yeah, the Bournemouth fans did win us. You go back and look at his Bournemouth record. He burnt them players out as well. Injuries. And that's the issue. It really, really is. Mark's saying again, look at the turmoil with Isak, Mitchell, Wales. That's not something you can brush off and crack on with. Nah, I don't disagree with that. I think he handled the Isak thing very well. You mean Eels? Sorry, I did say a comment there. He did handle the Isak thing very well. It was a really bad situation. But from what I'm hearing, Isak already told the club he wanted to go ages ago. So the club weren't quick enough to identify targets and deal with that. And part of that is how, and part of that isn't how. And I think that is something that the club have to address, because if a player wants to leave, then that is the something the club has to have a contingency for. You look at Liverpool, for example. They thought Alisson was going to go to Saudi, so they went and signed Mamadashvili in way good time, and then let him finish his time at Valencia. We're not that quick to do that, and that's the issue, you know. But anyway, right, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Done nearly an hour there, so we'll wrap that up. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat and in the comments. For all of the supportive comments, all of the constructive comments as well. All your opinions are welcome here. There's no point in us having a go at each other. We're all Newcastle fans at the end of the day, most of us anyway, and we all want to see Newcastle United do well. So it's okay if you like the manager. If you don't like the manager, your opinions are safe and valid here. We don't attack each other in the comments. We can agree to disagree, and that's it. But that's us done for the day. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe below. Help get us to the next milestone. Hype the video. Do all that crack that's required on YouTube. We will be back with the match preview for the PSV game, and I'll be back behind the mic on the Wednesday night. Maybe Mark will come along with me as well. You never know. You might get a Brucey bonus, and Mark might come on the mic as well. Sorry, that sounded really dodgy. He might appear on the show. Oof. Steady. Good job. Chippers isn't still in the chat, I think. He might appear on the show after the PSV game. Oh, my God. They've sent me mad there. Yeah, sorry, Mark. Blame that shit game and sent me mad. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next week. Have a belter. Cheerio.
Celebrate. They have done it.